Welcome to Train Masters Productions. For the train of Christmas, today we will be reviewing a K-Line 282 Mikado. So, let's get rolling. Before we talk about the model, let's talk about the version, brief history on the real Mikado. 282 Mikado was originally used in Japan, I think in like the 1890s. I'm not sure. I think 1890 exactly. Not 100% sure. But apparently Mikado means, I think it means, Japanese it means emperor. I'm not 100% sure when they were first used on American railroads. I'm not 100% sure, but the Mikado replaced the 280 consolidation. And what I mean by that, the consolidation had a smaller firebox because it had no trailing truck. The Mikado had a bigger trailing truck, had an extra trailing truck, had a trailing truck, and had a bigger firebox. A Berkshire 284 had an even bigger firebox, a bigger trailing truck, and same thing happened to the Mikado. Berkshire, it's not that it replaced it, it just bumped it down to lighter trains. And the Mikado, it was a very popular design. Actually, the only American railroad that I know of that didn't own a Mikado was actually, surprisingly, the Norfolk and Western, who had never rostered a Mikado, and I'm not sure why. But Mikados lasted all the way up into dieselization. $24.99 was actually I think it's based off of a fast freight class of Union Pacific Mikados, and its top speed was 70 miles an hour, the real version's top speed. However, Southern 501 is probably the most famous surviving Mikado in the United States, but I think it's very famous. It's very famous Southern Railway locomotive. So now we've talked about some brief history on the Mikado. Let's talk about the model. Here is the pilot coupler, scale coupler cup bar. Actually has a chain. Wow, it doesn't uncouple it though. Here's the leading pilot. Here is the smoke box door, and it actually opens up like that. Here's the swinging. It doesn't have the swinging bell feature, but the bell actually swings if you touch it. Here's the smokestack. You would load smoke fluid into there. Here are the number boards. Here's a boiler's plate. It says, it showed that it was built by Alco. Here is cylinder. Here's a valve gear. It looks so cool. Here are the drivers, the boiler, steam dome. No, that's the steam dome. This is a sand dome. Here's some roof vents, handrails. Those are actually the antenna. That's why you should be so careful with those. Here, I think that cylinder has to do with the brakes, piping, trailing truck, ash. Here is a view of the cab interior. Oh, sorry. Here's a view of the cab interior. Here is the gap between locomotive and the tender, and it is massive. I don't think I coupled it, but it has a wired tether. And there's a big wire in between. Now, they're still used today on small locomotives, but this was before wireless tether technology. Here's coal load. This is real coal. It's actually real coal. Rivets. I saw this on the consolidation, and I thought it was because it was a budget model, but nope. This engine was top of the line, fanciest. It was like Vision Line back then, so I guess it's prototypical. Here's the back of the locomotive, marker lights, electrocoupler, which could be thrown for a Legacy or TMCC. Here's the water hatch, reviewing a switch. I'm not sure what that says. I have no idea what that does, but there's also a master volume knob. Here is a coupler cup bar and a ladder. It's harder to move this one. Here are some tender trucks. Okay, now that we've talked about it, let's get it fired up. Okay, when I was running this engine, when I've actually seen this engine a lot, but I've heard this engine being ran. It's not mine, it's my grandpa's, but I should probably put some smoke fluid in there, but I'm nervous about damaging the smoke unit. But it's not mine, it's my grandpa's. Maybe it hasn't heated up, but I heard it's kind of screeching and the motor's really loud. I'm not sure why, but maybe it's not greased, I'm not sure, but if you're considering buying one of these engines, just keep this in mind. However, I've seen so many of these. Also, this one's very reliable. So even if it has a screeching sound, I also hear it's a little staticky with the sounds. So consider these things in mind, but also it's a very reliable locomotive, so I would recommend getting this engine. Here's the whistle. Bell. That is some radio chatter.
Engineer, you may proceed on track 1.
Tower comm takes 4 seconds, but usually on older engines, legacy engines, newer legacy engines, it just, like, crew talk in general, but on older engines, like TMCC engines, it would mention the road name and road number. For example, on, let's say, a BNSF GP20 number 522, say BNSF 522, clearing, and by clearing bound,